and welcome to Broken Rules, a show about people making their own way in music and beyond. I'm John Lanier. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got a really good guest today, Brian Barrentine. Brian is the creator and executive director of Finiki Jam, which is an early childhood education program and entertainment organization. They have started here in Nashville about 25 years ago, and he's now based in New York. I worked with him for a while back in the day as part of his live band when he was here in town, and just a really amazing interview. We talk about how he created this thing and how it's grown so much. He's toured in China, he's been all over the U.S. and performs all the time in New York, and just a really, really cool guy. So you definitely want to check out my interview today with Brian Barrentine. Just wanted to mention something. I just finished this documentary, finished watching this documentary. I think it's on Amazon. It's called The Immediate Family. I think it came out late last year, maybe, but it's about a group of studio musicians that played on just about everything in the 70s. They're called The Section. It was Russ Kunkel on drums, Leland Sklar on bass, Danny Korchmar on guitar, and Waddy Wachtel on guitar. And collectively or individually or in different combinations of those guys were on literally everything. James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, Warren Zevon, Jackson Brown. If it was a hit and if it was any good, the chances are very high that one or all of those guys was playing on it. It's a really good documentary. Kind of goes into what each of their individual careers. Of course, Leland Sklar is one of the best bass players ever, in my opinion. He plays with or has played with Phil Collins and Lyle Lovett, James Taylor. Just seems like a really cool guy just from what I've seen in this interview. Just like a really cool cat. And then Danny Korchmar, of course, produced all the Don Henley solo stuff in the 80s. Just really cool. So it goes into each of their individual careers, and then it comes back around full circle. And what they've done recently is kind of came together as an actual band and not just studio musicians. And they're called The Immediate Family, and they've been playing live and playing a lot of those hits that they did for other people, which is just really, really cool. And then they go into how their band is like a family, and it's just really, really cool documentary. So if you get the chance, check that out. It's called The Immediate Family. If you're a music lover, and I'm assuming that you are, if you're here, you probably wouldn't be here if you weren't. So The Immediate Family, highly recommend it. Check it out. And right now, check out my interview with Brian Barrentine. All right, Brian, thank you so much for doing this. It's good to see your face after many years.
Good to see you, John. Thanks for inviting me on here.
Absolutely. How is everything in New York?
Man, it is beautiful. I'm looking out on a sunny day right now, and it's not too cold. We're climbing up to almost 70 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I can't complain. How's things down in Nash Vegas?
Things are good, but we have these cicadas. Do y'all have that going on?
I've heard tell of this cicada invasion.
Like, I was even worried you might be able to hear them in this microphone. If I walked outside now, it's crazy.
Oh gosh.
And they're kind of, some people love them. I think they're kind of nasty little creatures.
There was a funny Saturday Night Live skit on Weekend Update this week about them.
Oh, okay. I need to check that out. Well, thank you for doing this, Brian. You and I know each other from way back through your Finiki Jam, but I wanted to kind of talk to you and maybe just ask you what that is, what Finiki Jam is. I think even at the time that I was involved with it, it was many things, and I'm sure that it's probably expanded and changed since that time, or maybe not. But what is Finiki Jam?
Good question. Before 1999, if we even had Google then, if you would have typed in Finiki Jam, you wouldn't have found anything, right? But now if you type it in, you'll find a whole colorful universe of characters and classes and musicians and artists around the world. Um, that which is kind of cool. It started off as music time with Mr. Brian, and some wise folks down there in Nashville said, you should think of having a name that's a little more unique that reflects the uniqueness of your program, which was exploring world culture. So we pulled Finiki from Japanese culture as a word for music. We pulled jam from Indonesian culture to mean time and put it together. So Finiki Jam became music time around the world.
And was it initially kind of a curriculum for?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of how it
yeah.
started.
Let's break it down. It started off as with a group of just 6 families who asked me to come and lead their infants in music in a developmental music class. I had come to Nashville to pursue singer-songwriter path,
Right.
and some of these families found out I'd done some work for Jamboree, helping them create a developmental music program that franchised out around the world, and said, "Hey, come do it for us." And that's how it all started, man. They told their friends. They told their friends. We opened up 3 centers in Nashville. We were training teachers on the methods and writing the curriculum, and then as fast as we could. It was all based on original IP too, so writing original songs, stories, chants to enhance early childhood learning and development.
Was there existing research on that, or were you just kind of figuring it out as you go? Existing research on how that early childhood musical development, how it's successful and that type of thing?
Yeah, yeah. So at the time, the early childhood developmental play programs had started in the 80s and were a very popular way of looking at, how to really enhance your baby's development. And then the music piece came along with something called the Mozart effect. Do you
Yeah.
remember hearing
Yeah,
about
I
that?
do. Yes.
Which were these studies that showed if you played Mozart music for your child, um, it would make them smarter. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of the takeaway of it. The truth behind that was children that are engaged in active music making are definitely firing neurons and
Mhm.
having sensory experiences that they would not have otherwise. That can
Right.
help set them up for language learning later in life.
Yeah. Well, and now 25 years down the road, I'm sure that you've seen the fruits of your labor and probably run into some of these kids and probably have all sorts of success stories. But have you done any kind of like serious study on that or just anecdotal?
Um, Anecdotal, really. We usually always say that we have formal and informal forms of assessment, and
Yeah.
because we are a performance related practice, the very act of performing it gives some immediate feedback as to
Right.
how effective it is. But the proof is, to me, John, the stories that we get from people who just remember the joy of their experience that they shared with others that they were making music with, that they may have met with Finiki Jam, or the joy that they had within their family engaging with some of this material. And we even do have some people, some second generation artists that have joined our team.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that to me. That's really cool. That's
Mhm.
really cool. And, I think about that. Well, I've been thinking about music education a little bit in the last couple of days because I have a child who is finishing up 10th grade, and they had the Performing Arts Awards the other night that encompasses band, music, theater, dance, all that. And just watching, especially some of those seniors, I don't even know these kids. And my wife and I were both tearing up just looking at them and just thinking back to how much, number one, joy that is, but how much work it is and how much that affected everything that has happened in my life after that. I'm sure you have similar experience from your, high school, college, just anything you were involved with. But this, even starting at infant age, is it's a little bit different from that. It's I don't know. I can just see that kids. I just know that kids get excited with rhythm. I mean, I can see their faces lighting up with this. That maybe setting a spark for something down the road. I'm not sure. You know, just in terms of a love
That's
of
what we
music.
hope. That's what we hope, and we're always striving to provide access points for whoever we come into contact with the material. We've created this, like I said, universe of characters and stories and curated playlists of music from around the world. And we present it and we deliver it, this material, through classes and workshops, through 10 off-Broadway and touring musicals. Our YouTube channel, John, it's just incredible to see the thousands of kids that are on there. Shamrock Beat, a song that
Yeah,
you and I
yeah,
played
yeah,
together,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
over 600,000 views or something. It's just wild. So anyway, I was saying we try to have entry points on all these different platforms for all different generations. Uh,
Right, and it's not just the musical part of it too, but the cultural part of it as saying, "Hey, this is a big world out here beyond just the world you're in," and really getting people to kinda have that perspective from such a young age, I think is probably making a difference.
I hope so. I hope so. I feel like the more we understand our similarities and differences, and we can celebrate those things, the better off we are.
Yeah. So it started out kind of as the classroom type thing, and then it evolved into live shows and things like that. I think, and I that's how I became involved many years ago because you had hired me to be in the live band.
Yeah,
Um, and I guess that I've looked at your website. You have toured internationally with this now.
we have. Absolutely, John. That's right. Um, yeah, it started off as the in the class, and then we started recording the music, and then we started getting bookings um, in Nashville and at local music festivals.
Yeah.
I remember I was practicing in a garage back in the day. Do you remember that?
I do. I also remember at somebody's house, there was some it wasn't at your place. I think we rehearsed there some, but there was somebody, maybe it was the drummer's house or something, I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, yeah. From there, man, we started touring all those music festivals around the southeast, and eventually ended up in back in Europe. I toured Europe before I started creating my own company.
Yeah.
I was a performer, a full-time musical theater performer and singer from the age of 6 on up, and spent 3 years on tour as Elvis in Europe.
Oh,
And
that's right. I'd forgotten
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. So I was coming to Nashville after having a full-time performing career. Really, I started at age 6. I guess I got paid to sing on stage for the first time,
Uh-huh.
and then from age 14 and up to doing that. So
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your musical origin story. I mean, that's an early age to start doing it professionally, but how did you get involved with music initially?
um, through, I mean, my parents are both from rural Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta, which is kind of the home of the Delta blues, and we
Yeah.
grew up on farms down there. So that was the music in their lives, combined with the music of those rural churches, the Presbyterian hymns and the Baptist sing-alongs, and
Mhm.
grew up singing all that when I was that's my musical and my spiritual heritage, is growing up singing all those hymns, singing with the adult choir when I was, 5 and 6 year old, and that kind of thing. Learning to read music from reading the hymn book.
Did you start out playing hymns on piano? Was that your first instrument?
Piano was my first instrument. I was one of there are pictures of me as like a 3 year old where they put me on the piano bench at my Aunt Gay's house, and I just started, it's like a party trick, just plinking out melodies.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Who knows? And eventually, it was a colleague of my father's who was a classically trained pianist saw me doing this and was like, "Oh, let me teach Brian." And it was a gift. I mean, we didn't have extra money for music lessons growing up. It was, uh, My father was at that time a teacher. My mother had also been a teacher, but had taken time off after I came along. So it was the grace of and the generosity of this woman that started the piano training, which is where I learned to read music.
Right. And then you just auditioned for local stuff and eventually landed that first thing, I guess?
Well, I won a talent show, believe it or
Okay, okay.
not. I wanted to play my Roy Rogers guitar that my grandmother had given me and sing because I used to just sit out in the driveway and play and sing for hours, but I didn't really know how to play, so my mother talked me out of it.
Yeah.
She talked me into singing a cappella.
Okay,
It's a small world.
okay. And you won.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, it was a big surprise. So, um, and then I was hooked after that, I guess.
And did you go on to study music in college
I
as
did.
well?
Yep. I had a wonderful elementary school music teacher who created original shows, and she came back and performed with us at Atlanta Music Midtown. Were you
Oh,
with us?
okay.
Were you with us on that gig?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
And then in middle school, my music teacher volunteered. She would give us free voice lessons. She taught us to sight sing. She got us ready to audition for all state chorus.
Yeah,
That was amazing. And then a performing arts high school opened up my junior year, so I went there. Um, and then ended up, eventually doing the music degree in
yeah,
vocal performance and music composition.
yeah. And where at that time, I assume somewhere in there you did learn how to play guitar. Um,
Not yet.
Not yet? Was that later?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That was later. I was on the national tour of Aladdin,
Mhm.
and there were my two bros on the show were guitar players, and we used to just hang out, and they showed me some chords, and yeah, just spent a lot of time on tour, and then back in their apartment in New York, just strumming those chords, building up the
Yeah.
canvases.
At what point did you start writing your own material?
So I wrote with a composition degree. I did write an original musical as part of my senior project. So I was doing that kind of composition and writing some songs,
Right.
but nothing really extensive until it was actually on a hiatus on the Elvis tour. This was in the mid '90s, I guess, and yeah, that was kind of when it all came back. My plan had always been, right, okay, I know I want to create art, but I don't really know what I want to say yet. So let me tour the world while I'm young enough to still
Yeah.
enjoy it and I'm not tied down. And then maybe I'll have something to say. So,
Wow,
that's when I
what
started.
an experience. I mean, being able to do that at such a young age is gotta be, I don't know, that's gotta be exhilarating, but it's a different way to grow up, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I feel like we're all just when we can align with, what it is that we're put here to do or our purpose, then that's real. Things kind of tend to fall into place then, right? And for me, it was just I think I got there early. Kind of like
Yeah,
it's almost like you're born into it, right?
right. And
You
the
know,
same thing, like you said, ostensibly, you moved to Nashville to write songs, and then you end up falling into this,
yeah.
and now 25 years later, we're here talking about it. Um,
I still got a notebook full of country songs.
yeah, well, I think you and I played some writers rounds together.
Absolutely, yeah, we did probably.
I
What
think
was
we
it?
did.
Uh,
Uh, I think we played at,
Gibson Guitar Cafe. Or
yeah, at Boardwalk Cafe. Remember
okay,
that place?
yep.
It's out on Nolensville Road. It probably closed before you even left here, but it was a good spot.
Yes, I remember that now
Yeah,
with
it was a
Sue George.
yeah,
Yes,
Sue, now Anandi,
Anandi.
who yeah, she got married maybe a year before the pandemic, and her husband were in town and went and had lunch with him. And we
Amazing.
were laughing about some of the Finiki Jam tour stuff. I I don't know, surely you remember this, but we were or maybe we didn't tell you, I don't know, because you were our boss, but And this wasn't Sue. This wasn't Nandi. This was me and I'm sorry I can't remember his name, the bass player and the drummer. But anyway, we had played a show in the afternoon, I think, on this Friday or Saturday, and then we were done for the rest of the day. And I think you had another show the next afternoon. So, and this was a big festival they had called City Stages in Birmingham.
Oh yeah.
And so you had probably gone back to the hotel to get some rest like a true professional or whatever. And of course, we're, having the time of our lives. And we went to see that band Cake you remember that band Cake?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we're back at the hotel and we're hanging out in the bar there, and the band comes back. And so we're hanging out with them, and they invite us to this party, and we go up and Rick James is there. Do you remember this?
I'm so glad that you're like validating this memory for me, because sometimes I wondered if I just imagined it all. But
Yeah.
please,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so Rick James walks in, and I'm like, oh my God. And I had my cell phone, and I was like, hey, will you call my friend and leave a voice message? And he just kind of brushed me aside. And I guess he just felt like he had just broken my heart, and he felt bad for me. So he comes over and he goes, give me that phone. And he calls my friend in North Carolina and leaves a voicemail. It was probably 2 a.m. at my friend's house. And I wish that he would have saved that. I think he kept it for a couple of years, but
Oh man,
that
that's
was
cool.
that was one of my favorite
I
memories
love
from
it.
that string of shows.
I love it. I seem to remember like the revelry continuing through the night and involving hijacking a golf cart.
Yes.
Yeah,
I vague memories
I'm
of
like,
that.
look, come on, guys, we're the kids band.
I know. And I was like, Brian's going to kill us,
We always took it as a badge of honor if we were told to turn down, or that we were too rowdy,
Yeah.
too loud, or too rock and roll, or any of those things, because that's what we wanted to be. That's why we started doing this, John, so people would have an alternative to, man, be Pam, be sing, song.
Yeah.
Whatever kind of stuff. Now, I guess it's all AI generated.
Right.
But
Well, I just, and I don't know who was booking your stuff, but we did some pretty high profile things back
we
then.
sure did. Yeah, we sure did. We from the Country Music Hall of Fame to those to setting the attendance record for family shows at the Ryman, man. Getting to play the mother church of country music, that's hallowed halls, and stand in that circle where so many have stood before us, including Elvis and Patsy Cline. And
that was amazing. And then Victor Wooten got up and played with us. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm playing on stage at the Ryman, and Victor Wooten, probably the best bass player in the world, is over here playing. What a great thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And don't forget, 25, 30, 2.5, 3-year-olds on stage?
Yes.
Dancing along with their Frisbee Safari Jeep steering wheels.
And we had some teenagers that were doing percussion and playing djembes and stuff, or maybe teenagers, or some older kids.
We did. We had some different groups that came in and joined us for that special event, and one of them that we did have a drumming group, a West African drumming group that came in, brought some youth, that played with us.
I think
it was so cool when Victor jumped up there, though, man.
I know, and I was like, I brought a friend with me just to take pictures. Of course, I had no idea that Victor Wooten was going to get up there. And and I years later, I was telling my wife, I got to play at the Ryman one time, and she's like, "Why are you wearing a safari hat?" Well, that was one of my costume changes.
Yeah, we didn't wear it the whole time, right? Oh my gosh. Yes.
And we remember we did the thing at Country Music Hall of Fame. That was a fun gig too.
That was so fun. I loved that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we played at the Tennessee State Fair, maybe.
Yes, sir. We sure did. Bellmead Plantation, Cheekwood.
Zoo. Did we do something at the zoo?
The Frisk Center. Oh, I loved that amphitheater that they had at the zoo. We did a lot of events with them. Because we had all that great like safari themed music, and
Yeah.
animal themed stuff that
Yep.
played so well in the zoo. It was always fun to partner with them and the Science Museum.
Yep.
Uh, Imaginarium, was that a thing?
No, it was the Adventure Science Center
Okay, yeah.
where they have the planetarium there.
National Parent Magazine, man, they loved us and we loved them. And whenever they were doing something like at Opry Mills or at this place, they'd have us
Yep.
come out, and
Yeah.
it was good
Yeah,
times.
that was
Good times. And
what
we had
happened.
well, it was Victor Wooten produced the first CD, because that was kind of the evolution, right? The
Right.
class, and then we started recording the music, and then started touring.
Yeah, I think that's when you decided to put together a band to go play that stuff out live,
Yep.
and you had the recordings done at that time. Um,
Yeah.
what year did you leave Nashville, and did you go straight to New York when you left Nashville?
I did not. I spent a few years in Appalachia in between, and Finiki Jam kind of was a little dormant for a while. It grew so big and so fast, and I kind of burned out, and it was just like, um, I needed a little break, and I took one from 2000, around 2007, I guess, I think.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, and then came back to New York, um, and was advised once again, you know, to bring Finiki Jam back, and started just like in Nashville with one class here,
Mhm.
um, and then it's grown and grown, and since we've been here, we have expanded that same material that we used to tour as as a band with the rock and roll show. We've created stage musicals out of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, and how long are the musicals?
they they last about an hour,
Okay.
45 minutes to an hour, to some longer. When we go to China, they like the shows to last a little bit longer over there. So, like a 70-minute show, they like. Um,
And are you doing a live band with these
yeah,
when you're
so
touring?
it depends on the show, and it depends on the gig. A lot of times we do a mix of we play and sing along live with our own custom tracks. And that's been really rewarding too. I still have the same music partner I was working with back in Nashville, Joe Mazza.
Uh-huh.
Uh, we reconnected around 2010 or 2011, and although he was in Denver and still is in Denver, and I
Uh-huh.
was here, because of the digital world we live in now, we were able to kind of
Yeah.
pick up and start recording again. So we've created a lot of new music in the past few years. We've got a lot of stuff where it's just about trying to
Do you have
get it
your
all out there.
do you have your own performance space in New York? Or do you I know you do performances, shows out, but do you have like a home base space?
No, so we our off Broadway theater home has been the same since 2017, I think, the Actors Temple Theater. So that's kind of what we consider our theatrical home. And then we have several partner venues right now, 10 around the city, that we serve on a weekly basis. And some of those have been with us for 10 years now. Um, the pandemic really changed everything
Yeah.
about how the world works, but
Yeah, I was
specifically
gonna ask you about that. How did you adapt to that?
we at the time we were running 90 weekly programs a week in New York City. We had done our first China tour, which was going to go back that summer, as well as a new show that they'd had me write that was going to tour simultaneously in China. The show was I was in LA rehearsing, because we were opening the show in LA, and it was already running in New York at the time. So there was a lot going on. And then overnight, 90% of that went
Went
away.
away.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
were lucky. We were able to pivot pretty quickly, and we got a lot of the New York Times picked up on it and did a really nice piece about what we were doing online. We were able to switch and pull elements from our live shows that had been filmed and create new content and host these live interactive Zoom jam sessions So
Yeah.
that's what we started doing, different episodes every day, I guess. And it was really a gift to be able to continue to connect with audiences in that way.
Right. Yeah,
And,
that was a tough time for
and to
everybody.
keep our group of artists active and engaged too was, important.
Right. Yeah. That was a crazy time. I'm glad that's in the rearview mirror for the most part anyway.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. It feels like we're really getting back there. So
yeah. So when do you have plans to go back to China now, or have you been since the pandemic?
yes, actually, so we've taken three tours over there, and the first one since the pandemic was last fall,
Okay.
uh, November. Yeah, we went over, I think, early November. It was a 30-city tour. Um, I was able to do half of it, and then I came back to do the holiday tour here, and they continued on and did the rest of the tour there. So, yeah, we have wonderful producing partners over there, and I was just in touch with them last week about starting to talk about the possibility of maybe fall, winter again this year. We'll see.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is what a wow. That's amazing, really. Um, and
It truly is. I mean, it's such a great way to experience a culture, is to be working in a culture and to be doing something that you love and to be able to feel like you're sharing something with them as well. But also, they just, the theaters are incredible. They're all state of the art. They anchor these arts complexes that they create in these towns, um, and huge. Like most of them, the smallest is usually about 2,000 seats. Um,
wow.
yeah, and just incredible. Such an honor to play theaters like that.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
yeah,
it's always nice to play in places that are comfortable and sound good, and you know,
yeah.
always a plus. Well,
Mhm.
are you currently doing anything outside of Finiki Jam musically, or have you been writing outside of that at all, or performing or singing?
A little bit. It's funny that you asked that. When I was taking my break from from Finiki Jam, um, I did a couple of shows. I did The Sound of Music. I played Captain Von Trapp. I did
Okay.
The Fantastics, and then when I got back to New York, I was doing some auditioning and got into some film and TV stuff. And that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Um, Pause that to come back to Finiki Jam because I feel like it's what I do that's unique. But on my break between Nashville and New York, I kind of fell into a choral directing job at a local high school.
Oh,
I
okay.
loved it. Took me back to my choral
Yeah.
background, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I coached the high school choral program, and I was working as the music director at a church. And then I also ended up being the director of a community choir. So we had this huge, we could combine them all together and have this over 200 voice choir and do these amazing programs. And all that to say, for the first time in about 15 years, I went back and was the guest musician and director for a church in Blue Ridge, Georgia for Holy Week.
Okay.
6 services, over 60 pieces of music.
Wow.
I played uh,
Yeah.
the keys and guitar and sang and used tracks and directed the choir, and we just had the best time. It was a real joy.
Yeah. Yeah, that is another thing that I miss about my educational part, college is, singing in choirs and doing shows. I did some playing in pit bands for some musicals in college and stuff like that. And so I've been around the theater a little bit, but I've often just been amazed at people who can sustain that kind of thing. I mean, putting on a show like that, or putting together I have a friend who's a church music director at a big church, and just the amount of new stuff and programming, it just never stops.
Right?
And you can't coast. I
No,
mean, they
no,
don't hire you to coast. They hire you to
yeah.
program something new.
I did not realize what I was getting myself into. I'd forgotten about all those
Yeah,
skills that you have to access for that. So
yeah. So what do you
absolutely.
think? what's the next thing for Finiki Jam in terms of new material? Or I know you've got the tour coming up, or you just recently did the tour, and I looked at your website. You've got a lot of shows going all the time. It seems like.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I mean, we had 2 festivals last week, and yesterday. Yesterday we hit 2 yesterday. Um, well, we have some exciting things happening for Finiki Jam. We're always dropping new music. We're trying to get this catalog out there. We just have a backlog, but it's the challenge with Finiki Jam has always been meeting the demand and keeping up with the demand, and so we're trying to do better about that. We have
Right.
a brand new show and concept album for Oz in the Amazon, which is a reimagination of the Wizard of Oz tale, set
Okay.
from Brooklyn to Brazil instead of from Kansas to Oz. And we've been inspired by South American rhythms and Latin dances to create a brand new musical from scratch. It did not come out of the classroom this time, which is how all the other shows evolved. So this was commissioned to go to China in the summer of 2020. So it did not make it that year. And has never been produced, which is why we created this concept album with some amazing singers from around the world. So we're going to be dropping that probably in the fall. We want to coordinate that with a new initiative that we have coming out for our touring shows and classes and workshops.
Okay.
But, we're also excited to, I guess I could share that I was just looking earlier at some color sketch design concept ideas for the Captain Jam television show set.
Oh wow.
Yes, so I have some friends over at Tin Mirror Studios that we've collaborated on projects with in the past, and they've got an order for 1 episode of the Captain Jam show. So we're going to be building that set and putting that show together, and hopefully it'll be the first of many to come.
And when is that going to happen?
They are starting to build the set tomorrow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what if that takes off? How are you going to manage that with everything else?
Well, it would be really, that would be a great challenge. I would not mind navigating that challenge. I feel like this is a great way to share the material. And we have a lot of assets that we're going to be able to use, a lot of things that we filmed previously. So it's going to be kind of like a clip show, and it's going to pull from, it'll film, Captain Jam will be on a practical set, a live set, like his Mr. Rogers' World or the Pee-wee Playhouse. And from there, he'll guide the audience on weekly or episodic adventures, which involve direct talking like we're doing now, and then also using clips of stage footage from around the world or some of the cartoon stuff from the streaming series in China. So
that's awesome. Well, good luck with that. I hope it does take off.
Oh, me too.
I feel like the world is missing a Mr. Rogers type character right now. I
Yeah,
don't think that they're
there's not a lot of live action stuff out there, is there, for kids right now? It's a lot of computer generated
right.
stuff. So
And yeah, that's something that, we as musicians and just people in everyday life is the trade-offs between AI type stuff and actual human beings. And I think that we are sooner than later having to reckon with a lot of that stuff. And it's moving so fast, but I like to believe this, and I hang around musicians all the time, and everybody likes to say, well, there's no, and it's true that you cannot replace that heart and soul, but you don't know what the culture is going to gravitate towards. I mean, I feel like there will always be a reason for live musicians, people in front of each other, but
sure.
I don't know. That's used to be something that we thought about in the future, but I think the future is right here.
Right? Yeah, it's among us.
Yeah.
It's happened so fast too. I remember in college there was like a course called electronic music.
Yeah. I was at a friend of mine's house yesterday who's putting a new record together, and just listening to one of his new songs, and he was showing me this thing. He just came across it. It was an AI. It was basically generating a music video. Like, he typed in a few things, like the mood of this song is like this, and it was this wild cartoon. It looked really cool, but I mean, it just happened. It was happening in real time. It was wild, and it was also kind of scary. I was like, I don't know, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's just too easy, and I don't know, too scary. But that's a different rabbit hole altogether. But I really appreciate you doing this, and I really appreciate what you do, and what a treat to reminisce a little bit about some of those things. There's another thing that I think maybe, I don't know who was booking you, or maybe it was the agency or whatever, but somehow you gave us tickets. We all went to see the Allman Brothers Band on July 4th. Do you remember that?
Nice.
And I feel like there was like, my brother was in town, and you were like, "Oh, bring him along." And we were all in this tiny car. It was like there was like 13 people in a little like RAV4 or something. And we drove out to the amphitheater. You were probably driving.
It was probably
Uh,
my CRV.
yeah. Was it red?
No.
Okay. Maybe the memory is, I mean, it was an Allman Brothers concert again. So
Yeah.
it was just a good time.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
my brother was like, "Who are these people?
What are we doing here? Yes,
What are we doing here?"
I know. That was a magical time in Nashville, being part of that music row culture and having those country
Yeah.
music superstars just come and
Yeah. Because
make
you worked,
music with us and come to class and bring us, just share their life and share that moment with us.
yeah, you worked with a lot of their kids.
Allie Harnell was my good friend and partner, and she did so much to promote Finiki Jam through Clear Channel. And she's gone on to have an amazing career in the music industry, but she was helpful in helping us book some of those shows back in the day.
Yeah, I
So
remember.
she was
And I
great.
remember some of the celebrity parents that had their kids in your program,
Oh yeah,
back then too. Well,
absolutely, absolutely.
that
Well,
was a good thing. And I know, well, you did bring it back to Nashville 10 years ago, because I went and played with you
yeah,
then. Do you have any plans to get back?
we still absolutely, John. We got continued to get calls and requests from Nashville and other places around the country that we've been: Birmingham, Atlanta, Memphis, LA, San Diego, all that. But New York's gotten really busy. But now we are expanding our vision, and I did want to mention our new Jam initiative. We have programs that are eligible for state and federal funding that can be brought into schools around the country. We have a wonderful residency program where we can come in and work with schools. So if anybody's interested in that, they can get in touch with us. FinikiJam.com. We're putting together our partners for next year right now.
That's amazing. We'll definitely put that on our site and in the notes for this show.
Amazing.
And I really appreciate you joining me on here, Brian. And it's really good to see your face. And I'm just excited to hear about all this success. I mean, it's kudos on that. I mean, 25 years of doing this is a long time, and still growing, it sounds like.
Yeah. Still as passionate about it today as I was then, and still have as much fun doing it. So thanks so much
Well,
for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. It's great to see you.
great to see you. And when I get up to New York, I will take you out to lunch sometime.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right, that was Brian Barrentine. Thank you so much again for joining us today on Broken Rules. You can go to finikijam.com to find out everything you need to know about Finiki Jam, and as well, I'll put some links to some of Brian's solo stuff outside of Finiki Jam into the show notes. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Broken Rules. Take it easy until then, and we will see you soon.